We're joined today by Aaron Chapin, president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association. For those who are not familiar with PSEA, who do you represent?
We represent 178,000 educators in Pennsylvania, everything from student members all the way through retired members. We also represent teachers as well as our support staff within the school districts.
I'd like to talk today a little bit about some of the governor's budget proposals and how that may intersect with some of the priorities of the PSEA. First of all, just kind of broadly, the governor presented his budget proposal in early February. What were your early impressions? Oh,
well, as I was sitting there during the budget address, I was just blown away by just how great it really was. The governor is in a second year in a row proposing some really amazing investments in public education. So I couldn't have been any more thrilled than I was. I know my members were. Educators throughout the state were really pleased to see what Governor Shapiro is proposing for next year's budget.
Looking at some specific numbers, the governor is proposing $8.2 billion for education, including $1.5 billion increase for public schools. How does that level of funding meet the needs of our educators?
The proposed budget for public education, as far as basic education investments, he's continuing the great investments that he started really when he became governor. But last year he made huge investments in basic ed funding, and he's going to be doing that again. There's over $600 million he's proposing in basic education. We see that when it comes to adequacy and tax equity. There's about $500 million just there alone. There's some additional funds that are being proposed as far as basic ed, just new basic ed money. And there's a lot more investments that he is proposing that we're really excited about. It's going to really help our schools see the kind of funding that they really have not been seeing in many decades. And Governor Shapiro, as well as other lawmakers, have really made this a reality for our public schools.
How does special education fit into the plan, and how do you feel about the level that the governor is proposing?
Yeah, it's great to see more increases this year that he's proposing. There's an additional $40 million that he's proposing. It's really important. We have almost 20% of our students in public schools that receive some form of special education services. And so it's important because over the last decade and a half, costs have increased well over $4 billion in special education alone. And Governor Shapiro recognizes this $40 million increase. We'd love to see more, at least $100 million. We know that there's a lot of negotiating that can take place, but our students need it. There are so many students that receive a variety of services, and it's really these costs are being picked up by the school districts, and the state should really be helping at this point.
Has PSEA taken a position on the governor's proposal to enact a standardized $8,000 per student tuition rate for cyber charter schools?
We have not. We understand that school districts really are being affected by these cyber school costs. And in all transparency, we have, about 1,000 members within the cyber schools. We believe, obviously, there needs to be some sort of regulation and standardization when it comes to these costs. Unfortunately, so many school districts are being affected by these financial costs. And many of, I know the School Boards Association, many of our school district school boards are behind this. But we need something. What we'd love to see is, our members that are part of these cybers being part of the conversation. It's important that we're all involved, but something needs to get done. And if, Governor Shapiro's proposal is the one that goes forward, we're looking at saving school districts, somewhere around $345 million, which would be a huge relief to them and allow them to take care of their students within their own brick and mortar schools.
PSEA is seeking an increase in mental health services in public schools. Why has this need increased and grown in recent years?
I think it's always been an issue for our students. I think, though, when COVID struck and we started to emerge from our homes and go back to school, we really saw the effect that it had on our students. But we also recognize that our students have been grappling with this for a while, and it's only since we were really, kind of thinking about mental health due to the pandemic that we really started to take a deep look at this, and we're seeing that our students really need some assistance. And so Governor Shapiro, and even going back into the Wolf administration, but Governor Shapiro has recognized our kids need help. Our students need as many services as possible. And he's made the commitment, again, to keep that over $100 million to take care of our students' mental health. We couldn't be any more thrilled that it is such a priority to be taking care of our students.
PSCA is also seeking an increase in the minimum salaries for teachers as well as support staff. Why do you feel this is necessary?
I mean, our schools are everything to our communities. If we're going to have great communities, we've got to have great schools. And right now, we're having some real issues getting enough staff in our buildings. And this is whether it's the professional staff, the teachers, the nurses, all the members in the school guidance offices, but it's also our support staff. We can't find enough people to fill these positions. And these are all so important to taking care of our students and giving them the kind of education that they deserve. And right now, it's hard to find people to go into this profession. And one of the biggest factors is the salaries. And so what we're asking for, as far as our professional members is concerned, our teachers and nurses and all those other positions, as far as the professional staff, we're looking at a minimum salary of $60,000. You compare that with other professions in the state that have master's degree, we are well below those salaries. We need to increase them so that we attract the best and the brightest in Pennsylvania. And the same goes with our support staff. They are the life and blood of our school districts. The students see them the moment they get on the school buses, the moment they walk in the doors of the school and see the office staff. They see them in the hallways, they see them in the classrooms and in the cafeterias. These members, these staff need to have higher salaries. We're not attracting them. They can go down to a Sheetz just down the road, make way more than they're getting right now. And they don't have the stresses that go with it. We need to attract them to come back to our schools to help take care of our students. And so right now, we're hoping that we can get a living salary of $20 an hour or more for our support staff across the state. They deserve it. And so do our professional staff. They deserve these salaries as well.
How do pay and benefits for teachers and support staff in Pennsylvania compare to comparable positions in surrounding states?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're behind. The 6 states that we border, we are well below. Even in West Virginia, the minimum salary is $50,000. In Pennsylvania, it's $18,500. That just can't happen. $18,500 for somebody, in most cases, who has a bachelor's degree going into a master's. We see this in Ohio, New Jersey, in Delaware, New York. They're all have better salaries. Even the minimum wage is higher in our surrounding states. Pennsylvania needs to do a better job. Unfortunately, we have a lot of kids, a lot of college students that go to our great universities in Pennsylvania, and then they graduate and they leave the state. We used to be the one that would attract teachers from all states across the eastern seaboard, and now we're having a hard time filling these positions. And a good reason is because the salaries are higher in our surrounding states, and we need to stop that. And I know Governor Shapiro supports that as well. We need to find some legislative partners that are going to make this happen. It's an investment into our schools. We need the best and brightest so that we can take care of our students and give them the careers, future careers that they really need to have, which is obviously going to take care of our communities.
One of the newer initiatives under the Shapiro administration in recent years has been a student-teacher stipend. Yes. The Pennsylvania Capital Star recently reported that roughly 3,000 students applied for this stipend. Can you talk a little bit about the significance, what this stipend means for aspiring teachers?
Well, this is something that we at PSCA are extremely proud of, and I know that Governor Shapiro, as well as some real great partners in the legislature, we couldn't be any more proud. And this came about several years ago. Some of our student members advocated for this to come true, for them to receive a $10,000 stipend, just like any other internship that students in universities and colleges can get. In the business field, we see this all the time where they apply for internships and they get paid. Our student teachers, we haven't been having them get paid for decades. And unfortunately, when they're student teaching, for 12 to 14 weeks. That is their full-time job. It's not just a 9-to-5 job, just like it is for full-time teachers. They have work that goes in that they need to do at night. And there's no time for part-time jobs. And so how do they pay their bills? How do they pay rent and electricity and food and gas? Like, there's so many bills, and they have to put this on hold, these jobs to pay for it. And so they came to us and said, please, can you help make this happen? And so we talked with our partners in the legislature, and as well as Governor Shapiro, and we were able to get a $10,000 stipend. In the first year, there was $20 million, that was provided for this. Unfortunately, that only took care of about just over 2,000 student teachers during this current school year. Governor Shapiro is proposing $40 million, doubling this, which is, I know we're going to have a lot of partners in the legislature that are going to agree with this and understand that we need to do it. The portal just opened this past week for student teachers for next school year to apply. And within the first day, not even 24 hours, we had well over 3,000. That uses up all the money that Governor Shapiro is proposing. So in order for this really to be a success, $50 million or more is needed. I know that it's working. It's keeping our future teachers in this, because there's so many that have to make these critical decisions. Should I stay in get my student teaching done, or should I go and find another career? I heard from a college student just this past week. She found out that she was going to be getting the $10,000 stipend. Both of her parents are deceased. She's paying her way through college. She couldn't have been any more elated, because it's a load of relief that she doesn't have to try and rack up all of this student debt. And so this is a real success story. There's countless stories across Pennsylvania, and we couldn't be any more thrilled. I spoke with Governor Shapiro about this a month ago. He couldn't be prouder. He has student teachers stopping him at rest stops on the turnpike saying, thank you for this. It's a great success story, and we're going to have more teachers in the classroom in the years to come because of this.
How does the state determine who receives the stipend?
It's really easy. So when the portal opens, our prospective student teachers, they get on the computers, they log in, they create an account on FIA, and they just apply. All they need is to have a 3.0, which, obviously we want, but they also have to make a commitment that they are going to teach in Pennsylvania for 3 years once they've graduated. And that's it. It's first come, first served. It's not based upon their economic background. It's just get on the computer, fill out the information, and then you wait.
What are you hearing from lawmakers regarding their willingness to support additional funding for this program? I've
spoken with a number of both senators and representatives. They feel that this is exactly one of the tools that we need to be using to fix the educator pipeline. They are on board with this. They know this is what we need to do. We need to make an investment into this great profession so that we do attract the best and the brightest. Don't get me wrong, yes, we want salaries that are, comparable to others. We're not in this profession to make money. But if we hope to attract teachers, future teachers, we need to reduce the costs. We need to incentivize it. And this is the first step of many that we're going to help enact, as well as lawmakers, to really fix this problem.
PSEA is advocating to provide incentives for support staff to go back to school to get their teaching degree. Why is this important?
Well, these grow your own programs, and there's different varieties when you go around the Commonwealth. They're very successful. We have so many support staff that are in the classrooms, that are in the buildings. And many of them, they have associate's degrees. They might even have bachelor's degrees, and even more than that. And they love being with our students. And in many cases, they already know what it takes to be educating our students. And so what a perfect opportunity for school districts to take some of their support staff, get them educated, and have them be teachers. It's a great idea. It's a win-win for everybody.
Can you put a price tag on what such an incentive program might cost?
It depends on the school district. And of course, in many situations, the district is, footing that bill. So it all depends on the school district and where it is. Obviously, it's the price of working with a college or university to get that. But I can't give you exact numbers because obviously it depends as you go all across the state and the different prices of universities.
PSCA is also advocating for a cost of living increase for a certain group of retirees that have not received an increase in roughly 20 years. Why have some received increased benefits but not others?
Back in 2001, there was some legislation to fix the pension system. And unfortunately, back in 2001, everybody that retired just before then, so even the year before, they were not able to take advantage of this, cost of living adjustment. And so since 2001, there hasn't been this adjustment. Unfortunately, we've got 40,000 members right now, 40,000 past teachers and support staff that dedicated their lives to public education, but they haven't seen any cost of living increase. And this used to happen throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. This would happen every couple of years where an increase would be given. And, it hasn't happened in 25 years almost. And unfortunately, many of these past educators and support staff, they're living off $20,000 a year. And we hear, we've had many of them come in and tell their stories, and it's heartbreaking. The sacrifices that they made to educate and be part of that process for our students, and then they're left to live off a $20,000 pension. They're deciding right now, do I buy my medication? Am I buying groceries? Am I able to take care of my house? Many hard decisions that they shouldn't have to make. And unfortunately, that's what they're having to do. Right now, there's about 40,000 of these members of ours that are, still alive today in their 80s and 90s. And they're so desperate for a cost of living increase. And it just hasn't happened yet. We need to make this a reality for them. They should be enjoying, these golden years after all the years of service to our public schools and our students, and really the communities in which they live in. So we're hoping that this is the year to make it happen. They're desperate for this to be a reality.
What would raising the COLA cost taxpayers?
It would be somewhere around $10 million a year over a 10-year period. It's certainly doable. The state made a commitment to these past educators that, we're going to take care of you because you've taken care of our students, and it just hasn't happened. We need to honor that commitment and take care of these educators. They're so desperate for it.
Many of Governor Shapiro's budget proposals involve an increase in funding for some program or other. At the same time, how do you respond to particularly Senate Republican lawmakers who are saying that the governor's budget numbers don't add up or that they don't match what the Independent Fiscal Office is saying, and they're suggesting that we cut back on our spending?
We can't cut back on education. We've had the Commonwealth Court just over 2 years ago state that our schools have been historically and unconstitutionally underfunded. That's just not right. We have an obligation to educate our students and to take care of the educators and support staff that are in the classrooms. And we've got a great, healthy economy in Pennsylvania. We've got a very healthy, rainy day fund. If we're not going to take care of our students and the educators and support staff that take care of them, what are we doing? We have these choices that we need to make. And unfortunately, some may not agree, but public schools are, the best thing going in Pennsylvania. We have 1.7 million students in our public schools. They love these schools, and they're there to get an education. And I've said it, earlier in this program, if we want great communities, you got to have a great public school. There's no way to have a great public school if you're not going to make that investment. And it's unfortunate that, for decades, the investments weren't being properly made. Now's the time to fix it. Legislators on both sides of the aisle have said, we need to make this commitment. And so if you look at last year's investments, these were bipartisan. So Democrats and Republicans alike know that we need to do this.
You had referred to the Commonwealth Court decision from a few years ago, and I know we talked about the governor's budget numbers a little earlier in the program. He's proposing roughly $526 million in adequacy payments in this budget.
Yep.
How is the state doing with aligning with that Commonwealth Court decision and trying to get us back on track funding-wise?
Well, it's a great question. After that court decision, there were some, basic ed hearing commission. There were hearings across the state, all over the state, with plenty of witnesses. And this commission, they gave a proposal. They gave some suggestions to the state. And essentially, it's a 7-year commitment. Governor Shapiro and our legislature, they made that commitment last year. That's the first year of that 7. And every year, they continue making these investments, and that will go towards really rectifying a lot of the injustices that have been done. And so this would be the second year of another historic investment. It really will help 2/3 of our school districts get closer to the level of funding that they should have been at for decades now. And there's also some tax equity funds in there where school districts from the top 50 school districts paying high taxes, they're able to get a little bit of relief, which will help, obviously, the taxpayers. We've seen in some communities tax rebates because of this money that's being infused in. So we're really optimistic. It's a commitment, yes, but it's a great opportunity for our public schools to really be where they should be had they been funded properly.
From a federal standpoint, President Trump has expressed his desire to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. As we record this in mid-March, there's an anticipation that roughly half of those staff, roughly about 2,000 people, are going to lose their jobs. What would dismantling the Department of Education from a federal level mean for Pennsylvania?
Yeah. I get asked about this all the time by my colleagues, by my own wife, who's a special educator. This is one of the worst proposals that I've heard in my 32 years of being an educator. The Department of Education, obviously helps distribute these funds and to the states. And what President Trump and the administration is proposing of putting the responsibility onto the states. And our Department of Education in Pennsylvania does a great job, but they're not prepared to take on the tasks of the federal government. The federal government is a huge part to the success of all 50 states and the education that is provided in all of these states. There's no plan. It's just, let's just cut staff that work there. If this is something that President Trump is very much interested in doing, there needs to be a really great analysis of what it would take and how the responsibilities that the Department of Ed takes on, how it would be then distributed through different departments of the federal government and upon the states. It's not just something with the waving of a pen that we just fix this. There needs to be analysis. And we hope that cooler heads prevail and that this is not something that's going to prevail. We need the United States Department of Education to take care of our students across the nation, as well as here in Pennsylvania.
The state budget will be due June 30th. What will you and PSCA do between now and then to advocate for your priorities?
Well, obviously at this point, all of the hearings are done, and it's now time for legislators to think about, all right, what are our priorities? What do we really want to do? And so my members all across the state, they're going to be letting their legislators know what's important to them. We look forward to being part of those discussions here in Harrisburg and back, obviously, in their offices across the state. We're going to be involved, and we're going to make sure that this budget continues the great progress that Governor Shapiro and the legislature enacted last year. We're going to keep this going, because right now it's a time for great promise, a lot of great opportunity. Our public schools really are going to blossom and really make huge strides once we're finally investing the way that we should be.
We've been speaking with Aaron Chapin, president of PSCA. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.